Broadcasting from the Penguin Air Plumbing and Electrical Studios, we're your hosts, Will Hallett and Wade Rusk, and this is the Penguin Pro Show. The Penguin Pro Show is an informative podcast talking about air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electrical systems in the home. Each week, we will bring on a panel of professionals to educate listeners on different topics related to these systems. Today, we are joined by Penguin Pros Jay Kline and Jimmy Brown. Jay's the general manager with a background in HVAC, or HVAC. We say HVAC here. And Jimmy is an HVAC field supervisor at Penguin Air Plumbing and Electrical. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
How's your week going?
Can't complain. It's going well. Getting ready for the summer to kick off. It's kind of the calm before the storm, but it's going well. I'm really enjoying the weather right now.
It is nice outside. We don't have Wade with us today, but Jimmy's sitting in his seat, so he's going to play Wade today. Wade's away on business.
Right.
I would say. He's down in Miami, Florida. Happens to be spring break. That's so weird.
Yeah.
Busy guy.
I mean, it's a great time to book a business lunch down there.
I know, right?
It works out pretty good.
Yeah, he's got some lunch tomorrow, and Miami's the spot, I guess, right now where there's all sorts of spring breakers hitting the streets, and I guess they have a curfew now at 8 o'clock.
They heard Wade was coming.
That's good.
Yeah.
Keep all the kids inside, please.
Wade Rusk is showing up to Miami, Florida.
Curfew time.
He's going to enforce the curfew.
I talked to him a little bit on text this morning. He's having a good time, so
Good.
Still with the curfew. So, let's see. You talked about a little bit about March being the calm before the storm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of people are proactive,
Right.
this time of year. And so today's show, we're going to talk about HVAC efficiency, right? And how homeowners can keep their system maintaining that efficiency. You know, today's world, we have high efficiency everything, it seems. You know,
Right.
high efficiency appliances, high efficiency cars even, high efficiency washers, dryers, you know, washers that use less water, and also HVAC, high efficiency furnace, high efficiency air conditioners, right? So we talk about all this high efficiency, especially when people are looking to buy a new system. They're usually wanting something more efficient.
Right.
But how do they maintain that system to keep its efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what are the things that they can do? And we're going to talk about that today. So we're glad to have Jimmy and Jay on the show. They are true Penguin Pros. Been with us quite a while now, right? Jimmy's been with us, 4 years?
Yep. Pouring some change. Yep.
It's gone by fast.
I know.
It's gone by really fast. And then Jay's been with us, 8 years now?
8 years now, yep.
Wow.
I know.
Almost since the beginning. It's our 10-year anniversary this year, doing some cool stuff. And one of the things we're doing is this podcast now. So thanks to Jonathan. He's done a really good job with this podcast, and it's coming along quite well.
Definitely.
Yeah, so let's get into it, guys. What can a homeowner do to keep that system more efficient? So we go out, we sell a new system, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can that customer do to maintain that system now for the life of that system? You know, average life here is 12, 15 years, so you want to maintain that, right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's a couple things, and I think the great part of it is it's if you have an older system, these things that we're going to talk about today are still going to help you keep that system running longer, more efficiently, save on your utility bills, and really extend the life of the system, whether it's new or old. You know, whether it's an older, less efficient system or a new, high efficient system. There's a lot of big things that you can do, and there's a lot of mistakes that are still made even with a new high efficient system when it's put in your home, with a little bit of education on exactly, one of the big things that we always get asked, I know when I was a tech in the field, and I'm guessing you still get it all the time, Jimmy, is where should I put my thermostat? Where should I set my thermostat? What do people set it at?
Right.
That kind of thing. And, on that, I've always been a really big, just set it at what you're comfortable at. Your thermostat, your house is going to feel different than everybody else's. If you go to your neighbor's house, they might have theirs at 80, you might have yours at 78, and they feel the same. So set it at your comfort level. Really where the big things come into effect on the efficiency and runtime of the system, and the energy side of it is the programming of the thermostat. If you have a programmable thermostat, which if you don't, we highly suggest getting one, they can really improve the efficiency of the system, pay for themselves pretty quickly. And then the other side of that is the settings that you have in that programming for when you're gone during the day, if you're home during the day. Some people, if they work at night, like making sure that you adjust that temperature to go up and down properly, during those times you're home and then when you're not home.
Right.
So we hear a lot of things on how to set the thermostat, right? So
Yep.
utility companies like SRP and APS, they'll say, different ways of setting the thermostat and recommend to homeowners what to set those at. When I was selling AC units, I remember people telling me they would turn the system off when they go to work. Is that something that you recommend?
No, not at all. It's actually very hard on the system, and it actually can cost you more in energy keeping your system off all day. And it's mainly because, most people come home 5 or 6 in the evening when they get home from work. That's the hottest time of the day. You've now let your home inside get up to 90, 95 degrees because you've kept it off all day. So you're now going through cranking on your unit and making it run for this long period of time. It usually probably takes an hour to 2 hours to get it back cool in the home. You've let everything in the home absorb heat. Everything's warmed up. It's the hottest time of the day outside. It's 115 in the middle of summer here, 120 in that time in the summer when you come home. So now you're turning up your thermostat, expecting your unit to cool everything down inside that's already hot. So that takes a ton of energy and really takes a lot out of the system to be able to run and catch back up like that. It's actually much more efficient and better for the unit to just go ahead and set it 3 to 5 degrees higher during the day. If you usually keep your thermostat at 80, turn it up to 83 or 85 during the day. Let it kind of maintain a little bit higher temperature so that when you get home and turn it on, it only has to bring down a couple of degrees instead of trying to fight to bring down 10, 15 degrees in the middle of the summer and, hottest part of the day.
Jay, I have a story about, a customer I went out to sell an AC unit, and they wondered why they had problems with their wood floors. Mm-hmm. And it's because they had told me that they were turning their system off. And you're right. The whole house heats up to that temperature, right? So that isn't a good way to keep the system efficient because it has to work harder to cool it all down. And it can take hours and hours to do that. What are some other things that customers can do, Jimmy, to be more efficient? I know that they talk about these sensors now. We start seeing these sensors now on these thermostats, and they can put them in a room that's maybe a hot spot, in the house. But talk to our listeners a little bit about the pros and cons of that.
Definitely, yeah. It's a big thing now that's coming out with the sensors they're making for Honeywell, Ecobee, Nest, and a lot of customers I speak to think, this is the solve all for my hot room in my house, right? But what it really does is it turns your thermostat down manually a few degrees colder than what you have it set at to compensate for that hot room. So the rest of your comfortable house will be really cold just to get that room somewhat comfortable. It works in some situations. If you have a two-floor house, it'll help, but it really won't solve the issue. It's almost like a Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. The permanent fix would be to address the ductwork.
Jay, I have a story about a customer. When I was out selling AC units years ago, I would see all sorts of things when people would turn their units off to go to work. And one thing I saw with this customer was the floors were actually starting to ripple, the wood floors, because of the heat. And they had told me that they'd turn their system off. And it's not a good idea to turn those units off. So all you homeowners, like Jay said, you need to keep them within 3 to 5 degrees. And that's the best way to have the efficiency of that system running at peak efficiency. So, Jimmy, these thermostats, there's a lot of features to these new thermostats, right? We're starting to see a lot of cool stuff, and there's also things that homeowners need to be aware of with these thermostats that can affect the efficiency of the system or the comfort in the home, right? That they might not know more about those thermostats. Can you explain a little bit about how these thermostats are working now and what kind of features they have?
Yeah, there's so many features nowadays. I mean, you can link your thermostat in with APS and SRP to kind of monitor your savings. There's even features on the thermostat called eco mode or whole house mode, where it'll actually sense your phone when it leaves the house and turn the system off. And there's settings to go into the thermostat to turn that off, which I never recommend.
Which we don't want. Yeah, we just talked about that.
Because then you're going to leave your house at 90 degrees, come home, call your AC company, hopefully Penguin Air, and say, hey, my house is hot. What's going on? We get out there. By the time we get out there, it's comfortable. And we're like, well, what happened? We go through the system, nothing checks out wrong. We go into the thermostat and up, we have to turn that setting off.
Okay.
There's also things called sensors that are coming with like Ecobees and Honeywells and all the top end thermostats, and people set them in hot rooms in the house thinking that it'll actually solve that issue, when in reality it'll actually turn the thermostat down 2, 3, maybe 4 degrees to compensate for that room. Now, think of it like this. The air conditioner isn't pushing air to that room individually. It's actually pushing air to the whole house. So the rest of your house gets really cold just to compensate for that one room.
Which is then keeping that system running.
Running, yes.
And we're not getting efficiency out of it. So what are some alternatives to those thermostats to create more comfort in the home and more efficiency? So that, those sensors are great, all these features, but not so much for probably Arizona, right? For the Phoenix market, we got to be really careful. So what are some things that they can do to create better comfort with efficiency in mind?
What I really like, especially like now at time, like when it's really nice out, I set an auto temperature, heat to this point, cool to this point. It leaves a window open. So I can leave my house and not worry if I left the air conditioning down at 60 degrees, and I can go on my phone and change it manually. Because before I had the Wi-Fi thermostat, I would leave the house and be like, did I change the temperature? And think about that all day.
Right.
Because if you leave the thermostat set at 70, if that's where you like to sleep, and you leave and it's 120 out, you're also going to run your air conditioner really hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? What I recommend customers leave it at, lowest 74 during the day if they're going to be home all day, but normally people like to keep it between 78 and 80.
Right.
And then at nighttime bump it down.
For sleeping.
Yeah.
To be more comfortable. So if you have a hot room, let's go back on these sensors real quick. I just want to hit this real quick. Because I have a sensor in my office, because my office does not it gets really hot. It's all glass, right?
Yeah.
So say you have a room, and I have a neighbor, actually. This is funny. I have a neighbor that has a room that they has probably an 8-foot by 8-foot window in it, because they added an office, and they kept this huge window in there. And I told them, put a sensor in there. Well, you're right. The rest of the house gets cold, and that room barely even starts to get comfortable, right? So what are some alternatives that customers can do if they have a certain hot spot, not with the sensors? Because Arizona, we do see a lot of issues with hot spots in the homes, right? We don't talk cold spots. Other parts of the country probably have cold spots, but we have a lot of hot spots in the home. What can they do?
What they can do is call a professional.
Okay.
The ductwork needs to be assessed.
Right.
A lot of these homes, when they were built, they were thrown up real quick. They have one duct splitting 10 different times, and by the time it gets to that furthest away room, it just doesn't have much velocity left. So what we do a lot is we correct the ductwork, make that hot room a dedicated run back to the air conditioner. That solves the issue. People deal with hot spots all the time in Arizona because of how much heat is actually outside the house. If this was any other climate, they probably wouldn't notice that. But when it gets hit with 120 outside and 160 in your attic, you got heat vibrating on all ends.
Right.
So those corner rooms, those big window rooms, those kitchens with the Panamera, there's a lot to take into consideration.
All that heat gain's coming in faster than that cold air can cool it down. So ductwork's we're always doing, for you homeowners, you listeners, we're always modifying ductwork here in Phoenix, the area. And we always have happy customers afterwards. We come in and redesign it for you. It's a great way to get that comfort in the home. Also insulation, Jay, right? So that's a way to keep the home really efficient, so that cold air doesn't escape the house.
Yeah, and I always suggest, one of the things you can really do, it's a very, very easy telltale sign, is get on a ladder if you're ever changing your filter or changing the batteries in your smoke detector. Feel the roof. How hot is it? If it feels hot, you need more insulation in the attic. Pretty simple. That means that heat's coming down through. And really, it's a very inexpensive way to improve the overall efficiency of the home. A lot of people go towards like doors and windows. They get really expensive.
Right.
And you can usually do more for efficiency-wise by just adding insulation to the home. And it's like a tenth the cost of doing windows throughout the home.
It really is. I have a package unit on my roof.
Yeah.
And I did insulation at my house. I blew in an R30. I barely can hear my air conditioner kick on.
Wow.
Because of that sound barrier it also puts on there. And all all my cold air stays cold. It doesn't escape.
Right.
I noticed that the AC would kick on a lot more before I did the installation.
Right.
You know, and it makes a sound barrier, so it's like I can't even tell it's running.
Yeah, insulation is so important. We don't realize that. And you're right. Like my neighbors across the street got brand new windows, like the real expensive windows, right? And I'm like, how's it going? Like, well, I still have issues in this room. I'm like, well, it's either duct work and some insulation probably. So those are the things that we really need to educate customers on and listeners.
Yeah, because really one of the biggest things with ductwork that people don't, and when they're building the home, if you look around every room in your house, they usually put the same exact size duct throughout the house. But the two hot spots I would say we probably hear most, Jimmy, are the master bedroom and the office, right? The at-home office. Your master bedroom is usually bigger than every other room. So if it has the same duct size or the same vent that every other room has, well, it's understandable. It's not going to keep up. It's bigger than every other room. And that office is usually in the front corner of the house. Yeah. So it's more exposed. And sometimes there's, 3 walls. My office at home, the entryway walks in on this side, and then I got the front and the outside. So it's actually exposed outside 3 walls. The other time is a lot of times it's butted up against the garage. So it's 1 wall's garage, 2 are exposed. So it's got all that heat barrier. It needs more airflow than the other rooms that are on the inside of the house.
Right, especially with people working from home now these days. I noticed that we're getting more calls about comfort issues in the home because they're there all day and they want to be comfortable. So these are some things, not only just thermostats and sensors, but it's also getting in that attic and see what's going on to that room.
And it's crazy how many people have learned to live with the hot spots.
Right.
Because I go in on a maintenance call and I ask them that question: is there any uncomfortable rooms in the house? And they may say no at first, but at the end of the call, they're like, you know what? Just so to mention, our kids' room gets really hot. We just learned to live with it. Well, we can fix that. You don't have to. Our job is comfort.
And then what they're doing is cranking the AC down more and more and using more efficiency, and their utility bills are going up.
Why is my bill?
There's a lot of ways that you can save money there. So let's end this real quick with filters as well. Filters are something that there's a lot of options out there, right, guys?
A lot of options.
People say a lot of different things.
A lot of different filters. Let's talk a little bit about that because we know that filters can hamper the system, right? It can make it less efficient, and we got to talk about filters and what ways that customers or consumers and also homeowners can keep that system more efficient with a pretty good filter. Especially here in Arizona, we're in the Dust Bowl, so let's talk about that a little bit. What can we do, Jay?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of we get that question all the time, right? What filter should I use? How often should I change it? And you have to be careful because there are filters that level, when you go to the store to buy a filter, you can get them down at like $3 a piece, and you can spend $30+ a piece on a filter. And they're all different variances of really how well they filter small particles, right? The smaller the particle, the more expensive one, of course, will actually remove the smaller particles out of the air. Your little dust mites and allergens and that kind of stuff will get removed with the more efficient, more expensive filter. The problem is that filter is actually so dense to remove those little particles, well, your unit struggles to pull air through it. Right now, everybody, of course, is dealing with masks, right? Everybody's wearing masks around. Right. Imagine walking outside and taking a walk with a very thin mask. Now imagine putting 5 of those masks on your face and taking a walk outside, right? Which one example for you is going to be harder to breathe through? Yeah, I mean, you have 5 masks layered up, nothing's getting through there, but you can't breathe. That's the same for your air conditioner. So the more masks you put on, the thicker that filter is, that more dense that filter is, the harder it's going to be for your air conditioner to breathe. So trying to find that really good happy medium of, okay, how do we keep the air conditioner safe by keeping all these particles out of it, but also let it run efficiency and not damage the system by restricting its airflow, and making it hard for the unit to breathe. So I usually suggest finding one of the cheaper pleated filters you can. So as far as pleated, maybe Jonathan can throw up some pictures for you guys to look at. They make these pleated filters that have like about a 1-inch spacing in the little ripples in the filter. In my opinion, those are kind of the best filters you can get. They're like $5 to $7 a piece, and change them every 30 days. Some of the filters out there say 90 days on them, but they don't know your home, right? I mean, if I have a dog at home and I have 3 young kids, my doors are always open in and out. Of course, it's a messier home and dogs. So I need to change my filters sometimes in the middle of the summer, less than 30 days. Some people are in and out very little, very clean home. And it all depends on where the filter's at. If it's on the floor, if it's up in a 12-foot ceiling, it's going to get, of course, less dirty in a 12-foot ceiling because heavy stuff falls to the floor. So, so it all judges on your exact home. So look at it. I would suggest every 30 days, see what it looks like every 30 days. And sometimes in the middle of the winter, right now, when it's nice out, yeah, you can get 90 days out of it because your unit's not really running that much. But in the summer, when it's running like crazy, you need to change it at least every 30 days.
Yeah, I remember we could go on and on of stories with filters, right? What we've seen out there. But yeah, it's so important that the customers do change that filter, especially during the summer, every 30 days. We have come out to homes where the filter hasn't been changed and they want to know why the system is iced up, right?
Frozen over.
Frozen over. And it's because we see a lot of dirty filters. And then that causes what? Dirty coils and dirty blowers and dirty ductwork. Everything from that point just gets really dirty. And so it is really important. And the pleated filters, I think, are the best way to go, unless you want to go with the less filter and then some kind of air cleaner, or which we're going to talk about probably next week, right?
Yep.
We're going to talk about some high efficiency air cleaners as well. So, Jimmy, do you have anything else on filters that you want to share?
Some of these homes, when they replace the air conditioner, going from the old refrigerant, which is the R22, to the new refrigerant, which is the 410A, they never really did any adjustments with the ductwork. Now, with the newer refrigerant, it runs at almost double the pressure, so you need a lot more air to get back to it. So when homeowners ask me, hey, what kind of filter do I need? And I look at their ductwork, and I look at their air conditioner, and I say, you have to use this low-pass cheapy filter. It's not going to filter much, but this is what your air conditioner needs to use to work properly, because your ductwork just is not sized properly.
Unless you do modify the ductwork.
Unless you do. And then you can add another return somewhere else to filter even more air.
Right.
And then the pleated filters work even better at that point, because now you have an abundance of air that it can breathe properly to pull it through that filter.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I see some people spending $35 a filter, leave it in for 3 months, and they're wondering why their air conditioner keeps breaking, because it can't breathe. It's iced up.
Breathing through a straw, I say.
And it takes a toll on an air conditioner. You know what I mean? Like, these new air conditioners need to breathe properly. If they're not put in right in the beginning, they will have issues in down the road in the future.
Right. We'll end it on this. I remember if they have a perfectly round circle of dust on that filter, right? Where that return at 16-inch duct or so or is right behind it, and that's a bad sign, guys. So that should not happen. That whole filter should be getting dirty, and you shouldn't hear air going through that filter. It should be pretty quiet. And if you hear like a vacuum sound of suction, that is not a good thing as well. So on another point with that suction sound that you hear with the vacuum on the ductwork, we got customers need to understand that if there's holes in the ductwork, right, especially up in the attic, or they can look around the registers, the supply ducts on the ceiling, and they can see a bunch of dirt on the outside of it.
Right.
That system is like a vacuum, right? And so it's pulling all that air. If there's holes in that ductwork, it's also going to pull dirt and dust in from the attic through those holes. What are some things that customers can do to make sure that that system is a completely sealed system and not making the system dirty, of course, because if we're pulling all that dust into the system outside of the filter, we have the filter and then we have holes in the return, we're going to get dirty coils, dirty blowers. So
Definitely.
What are some things that the customers can do?
Yeah, if you look up at your supply registers and you see a lot of fine dust, you can almost bet that you do have a good bit of air leakage on your return side, because your return side's that whistling noise that you spoke about. And if you look up when you change your filter and that collar, which is that circle that the duct's attached to, isn't sealed, and you have, 1/8 of an inch gaps, that will pull so much dust into the system. You have no idea. I went out to a job where there's about a 1/2 inch gap, and I was wondering why the air conditioner wasn't working right. And I said, let me look at the coil. It was pack-filled with insulation that it had sucked through the ductwork and embedded into the air conditioner. I can't tell you how many times I go out and do a maintenance call. I find something like that, and then I go investigating, right? Let me go look through all the ductwork. When people do the ductwork on the supply side that pushes the air out, they use a lot of tape. Some don't use sealant. Some were just thrown in quickly, and there's a lot of air leaks. There's a lot of that cold air escaping, not making it into your house. And what that will actually do is add a little bit more humidity to your attic, and there's a whole bunch of scientific stuff that goes with it. But it doesn't all, and then it doesn't pressurize. If we have air leaks all over the system, how can we pressurize to get that air to where it needs to go? And a lot of times when the ductwork's 20, 30 years old, and it's that vinyl ductwork that I find a lot of times in attics, which is completely falling apart.
Right.
There's no more insulation on the duct. It's just bare plastic with cold air. It starts to sweat. It doesn't really get that cold air from point A to point B before it warms up 5 degrees. And then you're wondering, why is my air conditioner costing me an extra $100 a month to run? And then we get up there and we find all that additional stuff. Now, when you talk about an air conditioning system, you got the box, which is your equipment. And that's only half the system. The rest of the system is spread out through the house and delivering air to where it needs to go to keep people comfort. And that's what we look at when we come out on the maintenance calls, which is really cool.
And so that's only half the efficiency then. So
Correct.
if we don't work with the ductwork and we don't see the problems in the ductwork, then you're still going to have efficiency issues.
Correct.
Right? You're going to have dirty coils, you're going to have dirty system, dirty ductwork. So
Right.
that's all important stuff. And here at Penguin, we do inspect everything. We make sure that duct system is going to match the new high efficiency unit, right? So we train on that, and it's something that we do every day, Jay.
Yeah,
So-
like I say, and that's one of the big things that Jimmy mentioned is it can happen over time too, right? Because so many people did use a sealant tape to put it up there. Even though your attic isn't in direct sunlight, I mean, it's getting 140, 150
Baking that
degrees
tape.
up in there.
They use
And
duct
that,
tape.
That
actual
adhesive,
duct tape.
yeah, they'll use actually that gray duct tape
Yeah.
that you buy from Home Depot with
Fix
regular
everything.
duct tape, and they would put that on your system. Well,
Yep.
I mean, that stuff is just deteriorates. It comes off in flakes, right? And so just from that heat up there, and so I mean, imagine putting that on something in your garage. How long does it last?
Right.
Now put it
Or
in
the
your
corners start to peel. And
yeah, now put it in your garage and think about, or up in your attic and think about that. So, it's a big thing that it can happen over time too. So it might not have leaked up front, but now when we go back out there 8 years later, well, now you have leaks everywhere because that stuff's falling off.
Yeah, and the proper way is we go in and we take this duct sealant called Pookie. It's a term that we use here in the industry.
or mastic.
And mastic, and we brush it all on, all
Yep.
those collars, all those cans, everywhere there's a joint where duct connects. We're doing all those with a duct sealant, not with tape, or we're doing both, right? So
we double up.
double up.
We use Panduit straps. We use Venture tape, which is a tape which is rated, for the attics. And then we'll hit it with the mastic to really seal it shut. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
so it's all good information. All these homeowners that have bought homes probably, for the last 20 years that we had a big building. A lot of new homes just went up so fast.
Big boom.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're fixing all that stuff now.
Right.
So
And not to mention the people that have a flat roof. They think, well, this flat roof, I can't do anything to the ductwork, unless you pull the ceilings down. But those flat roofs have what they call a trunk line. That trunk line is just metal to metal, butted up to each other with an Essen drive, which is just a piece of metal to hold it together.
Yeah, that's it.
And they leak like a sieve, And people say, well, how can I fix this because it's behind the walls? Well, we have a product called AeroSeal. We clean all your ductwork, and then we blow this high pressurized aerosol through the ducts, which actually pressurizes it so that the aerosol finds its way out through the leaks.
Up to the size of a quarter, I heard.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it will seal this, just like a mesh hole, like rubber. You know what I mean? Like coats the inside. It'll
Right.
completely seal the duct system, and then you'll realize some people say it fixed my hot room because of the air leakage. Now the air goes to the right spot; it doesn't
Right.
escape.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, really the easiest way to think about it is like fix a flat, right, for a tire. I mean,
Exactly.
that's exactly how it works.
It's really cool.
You put it in a bike tube. That's exactly pretty much how it works, and then it dries hard, so it's not sticky.
Right.
It doesn't stay sticky. Dries hard, so it won't attract any dirt and stuff after the fact. So
Right. Yeah, so those are also ways that customers can really get really efficient is duct sealing. So next week we're going to talk a little bit more about air cleaning, and we're going to actually have Jay. Who's coming on the show?
So we're going to have an expert that comes in from one of the air cleaner products that we provide, and Randy's coming in, and like I say, he works for the company. He's a great expert, so he'll give us a lot of good good inside knowledge on how these things work, how they improve, and how they kill a lot of stuff in the home, including COVID-19. So they
That's
actually are
exciting.
proven to kill that virus. So
That's exciting to hear, and homeowners are going to want to listen to this. You homeowners are really going to want to tune in for next week's episode. So thank you guys for joining the show today.
Of course.
We missed Wade, but we really didn't. You're sitting in the seat, Jimmy. You did a good job.
I'm honored.
So he'll be back next week. And go ahead and subscribe and comment. Any questions that you might have on air cleaners for next week or on the episode we had today, we'll be glad to answer those questions for you. But till then, have a great week.